And welcome back to Lighten Up. Tonight we have a great guest. I want you to put your hands together for Miss Corinthia Bodden-Wilson.
I am fine.
All right, so Miss Corinthia, apparently we have a lot in common, it seems. And I wanted to chat about that a little bit because, you know, the show is Lighten Up. So obviously, I want to talk to people about how they make their life harder and they could actually make it a lot easier. And you wrote a book.
Fun.
Yeah, and you wrote a book about smile when you're hurting.
Yes.
Let's talk about that book. Where's that book coming from? Just give me a little bit of background.
Well, actually, it was my son's suggestion. He keep harassing me day and night. Mommy, why don't you write this book? Because of my husband that disappeared many years ago when they were little. He wanted something to remind them when I'm gone of what really took place.
Okay.
So I actually had to write it under pressure.
Okay.
Every day, Mommy, you ain't start that book yet? And eventually what happened was I tricked him. I said, well, if you buy all the things for me to write the book, all the pencils, the paper, and everything, then I will write that book. And to my disbelief, when I came home, there was all the pencils, all the paper, and I had to do it
So
for his sake.
You couldn't say no then?
No, I couldn't say no.
When did you write this book? How long ago?
In 2002.
Okay, and how long did it take you to
It took me like about 2 years, actually. I started, and then I stopped, and then I've been harassed again, and I started again, and that went on and on until I wrote the book.
Okay, and now, in writing the book, what was it like? Where are you coming from to actually write this book about smiling when you're hurting? I mean, obviously coming from a hurting place and finding peace, but
No, actually, I was always a person that was always smiling. I giggle at everything. My kids think I have no brain. That's what they said, you know. But deep down, after my husband disappeared, and I cried so much, they saw my hurt.
Yeah.
So I was still smiling. You know, people would see me on the street and they'll say, you ain't got no worries or what? But little do they know that I have a big ache in my heart.
Right. And you have 6 children, so you were left with actually 6 children.
Yes. But it was fun having 6 kids because we do many things together. We laugh together. They would cry when I cry. And it was fun having 6 kids. I'm glad I made 6. I wanted 13, but I only got 6.
Well, that's funny because I always say that too. I have 3, and I always say if I knew they were going to be this good, I'd had 10 more.
yeah.
But you never know. But you know, I also think that you should have more than one child because the more you have, at least somebody will remember you.
Yeah, it was
like
fun.
on Mother's Day or birthday, somebody has to remember that you exist. So you know, go for more children.
Oh,
so you and I talked about what I had put in my book. Limit wallowing time. And we were talking about that before we came on today, that, you know, you actually had your time when you were depressed or whatever.
Well, actually, I was depressed for about 6 years, and I cried every day for 6 years. And eventually, I went in the mirror one day, I looked in the mirror, and I said, my goodness, who is that looking back at me?
Yeah.
This crying nonsense got to stop.
Right.
So I said, well, what I would do then, I used to cry at night, and my little girl would lay down beside me, and she would say, Mommy, why are you crying? And then I would say to her, oh, I'm crying for your dad. And one day I thought how selfish I was. There she was every night asking me, what are you crying for? Your dad. What nonsense is that?
Right.
So I said, you know, I am going to cry quietly. I'm going to cry when she's sleeping. And I'm not going to make that noise like, I'm going to just let the tears run down my... Quietly just run down my face. Yeah, I had a plan. I'm going to cry between the hours of 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Yeah, I scheduled it. And one night when I was lying there and I wasn't making a sound, I just let the tears run down my cheeks. She took her little hand in the dark. She knew when I'm supposed to cry. And she did not hear the. So she took her little hands and pat my face and said, "Mommy, you crying?" And that hurt my heart so badly. I said, no, this thing really got to stop.
Wow.
So I prayed that night and I asked God, I said, listen, this is nonsense now. I'm here crying over one man that disappeared and I don't know what happened to him and I have 6 kids to look after.
That's right.
Cut it out.
Yeah.
And I just cut it out. And I think the Lord helped me to cut it out because I never cried after that. I can talk about it and giggle about it, and I think that's how
right.
it should be.
That's funny. That's funny because I say things like that too. I always say, don't let me pray about it. Because when you pray about stuff and you earnestly, I think you earnestly believe, it happens. It just comes over you and it's done. So your time was done. Well, thank you so much for coming to Lighten Up and sharing your story with us. And you guys need to get her book. It's called
Smile When You're Hurting.
And it's on Amazon and all of the online bookstores. You have to get the book. Thank you so much. We'll be back with more Lighten Up.